Welcome to the Deep Dive, your direct route to understanding the forces shaping our world. Today, we're taking you on an incredible journey into the heart of South Asia, specifically to Nepal, a country that, despite its stunning Himalayan landscapes and rich cultural heritage, often feels, well, like an enigma.
It really does.
Our mission this deep dive is to give you a clear, balanced understanding of pivotal moments and ongoing challenges that continue to shape Nepal's sovereignty, its development, and its complex relationships with its powerful neighbors, India and China.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic.
We'll unpack everything from decades-old river treaties to a tragic royal massacre and the contrasting narratives of ambitious hydropower projects. Get ready for some truly surprising facts and those aha moments that connect seemingly disparate events into a clear, coherent picture.
And what's truly fascinating here is that Nepal's situation isn't just a local story. It's a living microcosm of much broader regional dynamics. Really shows how things connect. Well, we'll see how historical treaties, the very essence of national identity and significant external influences, converge in a way that profoundly impacts a nation's trajectory. Think about it. A river treaty signed decades ago, a tragic royal event that shook the country to its core, and ambitious energy projects. They're all intricately connected,
Right.
all tied to Nepal's enduring quest for sovereignty and sustainable development. Throughout this deep dive, we'll carefully sort through complex information, including, political narratives and those persistent conspiracy theories that often muddy the waters, to give you a clear, factual understanding of these forces.
That really underscores the deep historical and geopolitical context at play. For you, our listener, understanding Nepal isn't just about catching up on current events, though it's certainly vital for that. It's about seeing a living, breathing case study of how colonial legacies, entrenched power imbalances between nations, and internal political dynamics can dramatically impact a nation's future. We're going to show you how these threads intertwine, providing you with a depth of understanding that few casual observers ever achieve. So, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Our journey begins with the 1996 Mahakali Treaty. This was a bilateral agreement between Nepal and India that, on paper, was designed to usher in a new era of cooperation on the Mahakali River. But, as we'll quickly discover, it almost immediately became a symbol of unmet expectations, deep controversy.
And a continuing source of national grievance for many Nepalis. It really struck a nerve.
Exactly. So tell us about this treaty.
Indeed. The official title is quite a mouthful. Treaty concerning the integrated development of the Mahakali River, including Sarada Barrage, Tanakpur Barrage, and Pencheshwar Project.
All right.
Signed February 12, 1996. Nepal's PM, Sher Bahadur Doba, and India's PM, PV Narasimha Rao. The stated aim was to comprehensively resolve long-standing disputes from earlier agreements.
Older agreements that weren't seen as fair.
Precisely. The 1920 Sarada, the 1954 Koti, the 91 Tanakpur MOU. Many Nepalists felt these were heavily skewed in India's favor, left a real sense of historical injustice.
Okay.
So, crucially, the preamble of the Mahakali Treaty emphasized that the river was to be developed on an equal footing. That phrase was huge.
A promise of a break from the past.
That was the signal, yes. It carried immense symbolic weight for Nepal's sense of national sovereignty and partnership.
So, on paper, this grand vision of cooperation and equality, but what did it actually entail on the ground? What was the reality for Nepal? Let's dive into those key provisions.
Okay. Well, the treaty laid out frameworks for irrigation, hydropower, flood control, meant to last 75 years, right up to 2071. Sounds comprehensive.
It does, but the outcomes...
It's a very different story.
Yeah.
For instance, Nepal made a significant concession right at the start. It formally ceded 2.9 hectares of land for the Tanakpur Barrage.
And the crucial detail there.
India had already built this barrage back in the 1980s without full Nepali consent. So the treaty essentially gave retroactive approval.
Legitimizing what many Nepalists saw as a prior land grab.
You could say that. In return, Nepal was guaranteed what critics called trickle of water, 28.35 cubic meters per second in the wet season, only 8.5 in the dry season.
And electricity.
A modest 70 million kilowatt hours annually. Really minimal.
Minimal. How minimal are we talking?
Well, put it this way. Those allocations are barely enough to meet the needs of maybe a small town for a year. Definitely not enough for a developing nation seeking energy independence.
Right.
Meanwhile, India's existing infrastructure was already drawing significantly more from the same river system. It highlights this profound imbalance, despite the equal footing language.
Which led to comparisons like...
Critics likened it to trading your ancestral home for, well, a used phone charger. Maybe a bit hyperbolic, but it captures the feeling of getting a raw deal.
And then there's the centerpiece of the treaty, the Peshawar Multipurpose Project, the crown jewel that never shone, as it were.
Precisely. Peshawar was envisioned as this colossal joint venture. Equal cost sharing, equal benefits, that was key.
How big was it meant to be?
Initially projected around 2,000 megawatts, later plans went up to 4,000 megawatts. Estimated cost $12 billion. Target completion, just 10 years.
That would have been a game changer for Nepal.
Absolutely transformative for their energy economy, potential for huge revenue. Yet, nearly 3 decades later, Peshawar remains completely stalled.
Just paperwork and meetings.
Pretty much. A stark testament to the treaty's unfulfilled promises.
Yeah.
No real construction on the ground.
What's particularly striking is how this treaty rapidly came to be viewed by many Nepalists as a triple betrayal. Can you break down what those betrayals entailed?
Absolutely. From the Nepali perspective, it hit on 3 fundamental levels. First, a territorial betrayal leaving crucial border claims unresolved.
Okay.
Second, a political betrayal sidestepping key figures and processes. And third, a developmental betrayal that promised economic transformation just didn't happen.
Let's unpack those. Territorial first.
Right. The treaty completely ignored Nepal's long-standing claims to Kalapani, Limpiyadhura, and Lipulekh. These are territories India has controlled since the 1962 Sino-Indian War. But Nepal claims them under the 1816 Mahakali Treaty, which defines its western border.
And this wasn't just theoretical.
Not at all. It flared up in 2015 when India and China agreed to use Lipulekh as a trade route. Nepal wasn't even invited to the table. Huge protests in Kathmandu. It cemented the feeling the treaty failed to protect Nepal's territory.
So the treaty was signed, but left this gaping hole in territorial claims. What about the political dimension you mentioned? How is that seen as a betrayal?
That's the political betrayal. Critics argue it sidelined King Birendra, who under the 1990 Constitution was the symbolic head of national identity. PM Duba pushed it through Parliament, needing a 2/3 majority.
Which they got.
They did, 220 to 8 in September 1996. But it involved considerable political maneuvering. Our sources highlight the role of CPN-UML parliamentarian Devraj Gaimeyer. His internal party vote was apparently critical in swinging the CPN-UML behind the treaty.
So, bypassing the monarch, pushing it through?
Seen by many as undermining Nepal's internal processes and sovereignty, it eroded trust in the institutions meant to represent national interests.
And if the first 2 betrayals involved land and politics, the third, the developmental one, concerns the unfulfilled economic promise.
Precisely, the developmental betrayal. The treaty promised immense hydropower riches, especially from Peshawar. That would have been huge for Nepal's economy.
But instead,
continued reliance on existing Indian infrastructure and a flagship project that remains completely stalled. This failure to deliver tangible benefits, despite Nepal's concessions, fueled deep disillusionment.
And it's crucial to understand this within a broader historical context of mistrust, isn't it? Previous agreements, like the 1954 Kershi Agreement.
Absolutely. That one left deep scars.
Yeah.
Nepal suffered extensive flooding and displacement, while India gained disproportionately from flood control and irrigation.
So when Mahakali came along,
it was viewed through this very real lens of past injustices and perceived exploitation. That historical baggage significantly amplified domestic political divisions.
How did that play out politically?
The treaty deeply split major parties, especially the CPN-UML, and heavily fueled nationalist opposition. Critics often point to perceived inequality in water allocation.
The numbers.
They argue India effectively draws around 16,000 cusecs, that's cubic feet per second, compared to Nepal's approximately 8,000 cusecs.
Despite the equal footing promise.
Exactly. These technical details further bolstered the argument that Nepal was, once again, getting the short end of the stick.
It's clear the treaty itself has enough legitimate flaws based on these documented facts. But, as our initial sources also indicated, there were some very specific speculative claims mixed in. This is where discerning fact from rumor becomes absolutely critical, right?
This is indeed where critical thinking is paramount. Our sources explicitly highlight the importance of separating documented facts from speculation and outright conspiracy theories around the Mahakali Treaty.
Why is that separation so vital?
Because it's absolutely crucial to understand what constitutes legitimate fact-based criticism, and there's plenty of that, versus what is simply political gossip or unsubstantiated innuendo. Blurring these lines actually weakens valid arguments against the treaty and just muddies the waters for genuine understanding.
Okay, let's break down some of the problematic journalism elements identified in the sources that made this distinction difficult. What did we see there?
Well, the sources pointed out several key issues. First, Blurred lines mixing factual provisions like water allocations or the tonic tour land cession with unsubstantiated rumors.
Okay.
Second, the use of emotional language. Terms like stab in the back or shady crypto deal, sensationalizing rather than objectively informing.
Right.
Third, clear category errors, like confusing the Kalapani-Lipulekh boundary dispute with the water sharing treaty. Related, yes, but legally distinct issues.
And sourcing.
A big one. Lack of sourcing for serious allegations like political murders or foreign manipulation. There, I mean speculation, not verifiable facts.
That makes perfect sense. So let's systematically address some of those conspiratorial or exaggerated claims that appeared, making it clear these are not documented facts. What examples stood out?
Our sources were clear on this. For instance, claims about silencing dissenters, some even disappearing under shady circumstances, or mysterious deaths of opponents. Purely speculative.
No evidence.
No credible evidence or investigative reports linking systematic disappearances or assassinations to the treaty debate. Just rumor.
What about the political figures involved?
The claim that Guy Meyer's speakership looks like a thank you gift, a reward for tipping the scales, highly conspiratorial. Linking his speakership decades later directly to a 1996 vote without evidence is a huge leap. Political careers are complex.
I remember that shady crypto deal analogy being used too.
Indeed. Saying Doba pushed the treaty through like a shady crypto deal strongly insinuates corruption without proof. It's rhetorical flourish designed to inflame, not a factual statement.
On the trips to India.
The assertion about KP Sharma Oli. Their trip to India wasn't a vacation. It was a sign they were playing for Team India. That oversimplifies and vilifies normal diplomacy. Delegations travel for negotiations all the time, framing it as betrayal without concrete evidence. That's not sound analysis.
It really highlights how easily these kinds of rumors can take hold, especially when people feel betrayed or ignored, as many Nepalists did regarding Mahakali.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool for political maneuvering. But as you said, it often weakens legitimate critique. The bottom line, as the sources emphasize, is the Mahakali Treaty has enough real flaws, unequal benefits, unresolved boundaries, stalled projects, political divisions, without needing conspiracy theories.
The Mahakali Treaty, as we've explored, sparked immense national grievance, and intertwined with that was its silence on a deeply emotional territorial dispute, Kalapani, Limpiyadhura, and Lipulekh. Let's peel back the layers on this border battle, a major flashpoint between Nepal and India.
That's right. This dispute centers on about 370 square kilometers of rugged Himalayan terrain near the tri-junction with China. To get it, we need to define the three key spots.
Go ahead.
First, Lipulekh Pass, a high-altitude route, historically used for trade and pilgrimage to Kailash Mansarovar. Then, the Kalapani Valley, under Indian military control since the 1962 Sino-Indian War. And finally, the Limpiyadhura Ridge.
And why is Limpiyadhura so important?
Because Nepal claims it's the true origin of the Kali River. And under the 1816 Mahakali Treaty, the Kali River explicitly defines Nepal's western boundary. So where the river truly starts dictates who owns this strategic and symbolically charged territory.
This isn't just a dry geographical argument then, is it? It's a powerful symbol of nationalism in Nepal.
Absolutely. It's deeply intertwined with national identity and sovereignty. It's been a recurrent theme in politics, especially since the 90s, often invoked by various parties during elections.
And it escalated recently.
Massively. In 2020, when Nepal amended its constitution and map to formally include these areas. Predictably, that sparked intense diplomatic tensions with India.
And it keeps coming up.
Yes, as recently as August 2025, when India and China resumed trade through Lipulekh without Nepal's involvement. Strong protests from Nepali leaders, framing it as another violation of sovereignty.
So, given that deep historical and emotional context, let's explore these competing claims with a balanced view. What's the Nepali argument? What's their evidence?
Nepal's case rests on interpreting the Mahakali Treaty. They argue the Kali River originates at Limpiyadhura. Therefore, all land east of that point, including Lipulekh and Kalapani, is Nepali.
And they back this up how?
They often cite some 19th century British maps as historical evidence. They view India's presence in Kalapani as an encroachment dating back to 1962, when Indian troops set up posts during the Sino-Indian War.
And India's recent actions.
Things like inaugurating the Lipulekh Road in 2020 or resuming trade with China without Nepal's involvement are seen as direct violations of their sovereignty.
Okay, and what about the Indian perspective on the same territory? How do they justify their presence and claims?
India maintains the Kali River originates east of Limpiyadhura, closer to Kalapani itself. This interpretation places the disputed territory within India's Uttarakhand state.
What's their evidence?
They cite British-era surveys and continuous post-independence Indian administration. They assert control since the 19th century and established a military presence after 1962 for strategic defense, particularly against China.
And Nepal's claims?
India tends to view them as politically motivated, noting they only emerged prominently as a major issue in the 1990s. Plus, they see infrastructure like the Lipulekh Road as purely domestic matters, vital for pilgrimage and trade.
So as of September 2025, what's the status quo on the ground? It sounds like India holds the physical presence.
That's precisely correct. India retains de facto control. They have military outposts, operational infrastructure like the Darcha-Lipulekh Road. It's active.
And Nepal?
Nepal has no on-ground presence in those specific areas, but they've symbolically asserted their claimed constitution, official map since 2020, regular diplomatic protest to India and even to China when trade happens through the pass.
And talks.
Stalled. Despite mechanisms like the Joint Technical Committee, it's in a state of unresolved limbo.
And why haven't India and China pushed for a resolution? What's their calculus, especially at a tri-junction?
Both have significant strategic considerations. For India, the area is vital for monitoring potential Chinese movements. It's also a crucial religious route for the Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage. And domestically, conceding land is politically toxic.
Makes sense. And China?
China officially maintains neutrality. They prefer to avoid direct involvement in India-Nepal disputes. They recognize India's practical control for trade, as seen with the Lipulekh trade resumption.
Balancing act for Beijing.
Exactly. Seeking stability with India amid wider border tensions while simultaneously cultivating influence in Nepal via the Belt and Road Initiative. When PM Ali visited Xi Jinping in August 2025, she acknowledged Nepal's concerns but reiterated it's a bilateral matter for India and Nepal to resolve. No direct mediation.
This whole situation seems like a classic case of colonial-era ambiguities meeting modern geopolitics, historical maps versus strategic realities. So what are potential paths forward?
Well, several options exist, though each is challenging. Joint surveys to reconcile historical evidence agree on the Kali River's origin.
Okay.
Re-engaging in bilateral negotiations with clear timelines, maybe at a higher political level. Third-party mediation is possible, but politically sensitive for both sides.
Any other ideas?
Confidence-building measures. Perhaps shared use of Lipulekh for trade and pilgrimage, with Nepal having a clear recognized involvement. But without sustained dialogue and compromise, this dispute risks continually hardening nationalist sentiments and eroding trust.
Moving from these intricate geopolitical tensions, let's pivot to a profoundly internal yet equally transformative national tragedy. The Royal Palace Massacre on June 1st, 2001. This single event didn't just shock Nepal. It ultimately became a catalyst, accelerating its transition from monarchy to republic.
This was an utterly devastating event. Unthinkable, really. On that night, 9 members of Nepal's royal family, including the revered King Birendra and Queen Aishwarya, were shot dead inside Tribhuvan Sadan at the Narayanhiti Palace in Kathmandu.
And the official finding?
The official investigation concluded that Crown Prince Dipendra opened fire during a monthly family gathering before shooting himself. He was declared king while comatose, died 3 days later. His uncle, Gyanendra, then took the throne.
Just unbelievable. The shockwaves must have been immense.
Through the nation and beyond, it irrevocably altered Nepal's political trajectory, a real turning point.
The events of that night are almost beyond belief. Can you help us reconstruct the official account, what happened, based on eyewitnesses and investigations?
The evening began quite normally, apparently. An informal monthly family dinner, only royals present, no guards, standard routine, relaxed setting.
Okay.
Multiple eyewitness accounts and hospital testimony allow for a detailed timeline. Shortly before 9 p.m., Crown Prince Dipendra, reportedly severely intoxicated drinking, had smoked a hashish-laced cigarette, was escorted to his quarters due to his condition.
But he came back.
Yes. Later he returned to the billiards room where the family was gathered, now wearing combat dress, armed with multiple firearms.
Man.
He fired in several bursts. Witnesses said he left and re-entered the room multiple times as relatives desperately tried to shield the king and each other, hiding behind furniture.
Horrifying.
After that initial volley, he moved toward the garden and stair area. That's where Queen Aishwarya and Prince Narayan were later found fatally shot.
Were there medical accounts from the scene?
Yes. Neurosurgeon Dr. Upendra Devkota rushed to the army hospital that night, described the chaotic triage scene. He identified the Queen, Prince Narayan, others. Confirmed, King Birendra showed no signs of life by the time doctors arrived. Independent reporting that same month, corroborated these details.
And survivors?
Surviving royals like Rajiv Shahi, a physician and royal in-law, Ravisham Sharana, Maheshwar Kumar Singh, they all gave on-the-record accounts. Consistently stated, Dipendra repeatedly re-entered the fire at close range, specifically targeting his father and others. It paints a chillingly consistent picture.
An incredibly vivid and horrifying account. So the official inquiry found Dipendra to be the sole shooter. But, as often happens, conspiracy theories emerged quickly. How do those hold up against this eyewitness evidence?
It's true, a dense fog of speculation formed almost immediately. Common claims included another gunman, masked assailants impersonating Dipendra, that Gyanendra or his son Paras orchestrated it, even foreign intelligence like RAW or the CIA involved, rumors of higher body counts, tamoed hospital gear.
But the evidence for these?
Fundamentally lacking. These claims, widely repeated in pamphlets, street talk, lack credible evidence. In stark contrast, you have numerous named, living eyewitnesses, royal relatives inside the room, medical professionals who treated victims.
And their accounts?
They align with one another and the official inquiry's reconstruction. Specifically, allegations of multiple shooters conflict directly with what witnesses saw and the forensic pattern of injuries.
Some criticize the brevity of the official inquiry, though.
Yes, it was relatively brief, and Nepal's political climate was fraught in 2001 civil war, public anger. But brevity alone doesn't overturn mutually consistent testimony from those physically present. These witnesses, senior royals, in-laws, Dr. Devkota's detailed medical account, they're still around, spoken publicly. Their stories stand.
The official account points to Dipendra, but such an unthinkable act raises profound questions about motive. What factors were at play in his state of mind that night?
The motive question is central. While Dipendra left no note, several factors are widely recognized as contributing to his unhappiness and erratic behavior. The most significant, the marriage dispute.
Over Devyani Rana.
Exactly. He was deeply in love with her, but the match faced strong resistance, particularly from his parents, King Birendra and Queen Ishwarya.
Why the resistance?
Astrological concerns Devyani's horoscope deemed unfavorable, a big deal in royal Nepali culture, plus deep political sensitivities. The Rana dynasty historically ruled Nepal, eclipsing the Shah monarchy. A marriage might be seen as reviving that old dominance. And Devyani's connection to the Scindia family in Indian politics added another layer of discomfort for a king keen on insulating Nepal from Indian influence.
So Dipendra felt
Deeply cornered. Believed his personal happiness was being sacrificed for dynastic and political reasons.
a thwarted love story, interwoven with politics and culture. Were there other factors contributing to his state of mind?
Yes, absolutely. Second, lifestyle conflicts. Educated abroad, Eton, Sandhurst, he experienced modern freedoms. Returning home, he struggled immensely with traditional royal duties, the rigid expectations.
How did that manifest?
Growing frustration. He increasingly indulged heavily in alcohol and drugs. Eyewitnesses and medical reports confirmed he was severely intoxicated that night. Alcohol, hashish-laced cigarette, undoubtedly impaired judgment, impulse control, profound disinhibition.
And the broader context?
Third, the overarching psychological pressure. Nepal in 2001 was incredibly unstable, brutal Maoist insurgency, fragile parliamentary system. Dipendra, late 20s, faced the immense burden of looming kingship in that volatile climate. He was known to be restless, short-tempered, depressed, brooding over the constraints, lack of control over his life, a tragic combination.
Another critical piece for conspiracy theorists was the absence of Prince Gyanendra, who became king. What was the truth there?
Gyanendra's absence is indeed a cornerstone of many theories, implying deliberate planning. But the truth is far more mundane, widely corroborated.
Where was he?
He was in Pokhara that night, attending a pre-scheduled program on wildlife conservation and tourism. Crucially, his wife, Queen Komal, was at the dinner and was seriously wounded. That strongly suggests the family didn't anticipate danger.
Was it unusual for him to miss these dinners?
Not particularly. His attendance was inconsistent. Missing one wasn't out of the ordinary. His absence was tragic coincidence, not conspiracy, though it unfortunately fueled public suspicion.
Ultimately, what were the historical consequences of this profound tragedy for Nepal? How did it reshape the nation?
The massacre devastatingly eroded the monarchy's standing and legitimacy. The violent end to a beloved king like Birendra, followed by Gyanendra's ascension amid suspicion, exacerbated an already fragile situation with the Maoist insurgency.
How did Gyanendra's reign play out?
Public suspicion and political crisis only deepened. He struggled to assert authority, later assumed direct power, which further alienated the population. By 2008, After a massive popular movement bringing diverse political forces together and the end of the Civil War, Nepal formally abolished the monarchy, declared a republic. Looking back, June 2001 is widely seen as the definitive pivot point that set that endgame in motion. Irreversibly changed Nepal's history.
We've painted a picture of Nepal struggling to harness its vast resources, stalled treaties, unresolved borders. But in the same Himalayan backyard, there's a vastly different success story: the hydropower partnership between India and Bhutan. Why has it worked so well there, and why has Nepal, with even greater potential, struggled?
The core insight here is how differently they approach it. Bhutan's success is rooted in treating hydropower as a stable, long-term joint development project, largely immune to internal political churn.
Whereas Nepal
has consistently allowed internal political volatility and nationalist narratives to derail its immense potential. That fundamental difference shapes everything.
So tell us about the Bhutan-India model.
In a nutshell, for half a century, they've approached it as a joint development project, not just a commodity trade. The core is an intergovernmental, or IG, model. India finances and helps build Bhutan's dams. Critically, it guarantees long-term power purchase on a cost-plus basis.
Cost-plus?
Meaning, the price covers Bhutan's generation cost plus a reasonable margin. This power is integrated into India's grid. It provides Bhutan reliable export revenue and vital rupee inflows. This whole framework was formalized in the 2006 bilateral agreement outlining targets, financing, market access.
Can you give us some highlights? Which projects show this model in action?
Certainly. Bhutan has an impressive portfolio. Chuka, 336 milligeo, was its first mega plant. Financed 6% grant, 40% loan from India, commissioned in the 80s, became the country's biggest revenue source for years, funded the national budget.
Wow. Others?
Kuchu, 60 milligeo, similar financing. Tala, 1,020 milligeo, commissioned mid-2000, dramatically lifted exports. More recently, Mangdechu, 720 milligeo, came online in 2019 under updated IG terms, roughly 70% debt, 30% grant. Export tariff set at 4.110 per kilowatt or a negotiated cost price.
Any recent ones? Or ongoing?
While Punasang Chuchu, 1,200 milligeo, faced long delays due to geology issues, Punasang Chu 2 Enefik, 1,020 milligeo, is entering final commissioning in 2025. That'll boost Bhutan's capacity by about 40%. There's even Dagachu, 126 milligeo, a joint venture with Bhutan's DGPC and India's Tata Power, with long-term sales to India.
And what have these projects translated into for Bhutan's people and economy? What are the tangible gains?
The benefits have been transformative, foundational really. Firstly, remarkable fiscal and external stability. Hydropower exports funded Bhutan's signature investments, health, education, near universal electrification.
The engine of development.
Absolutely. The World Bank repeatedly highlights it. These exports provide a large share of export earnings and public revenue, underpinning social spending. Secondly, assured market access on transparent pricing. India's guarantee to buy surplus power at cost-plus terms reduces market risk, makes dams bankable for a small economy.
That's huge.
This combo, assured offtake plus concessional finance, is rare internationally, central to the success. Thirdly, seamless grid integration and timely payments. Dedicated 400 kV corridors connect Bhutan to India's load centers. Bhutan doesn't carry balancing risk. Sales settle in Indian rupees, essential for trade needs and foreign exchange.
It sounds like a truly symbiotic relationship. But even with such success, there must be risks in concentrating so much on one sector. What challenges has Bhutan faced?
You're right, no model is risk-free. One is project concentration and debt. Hydropower dominates exports, making the economy vulnerable. Delays, like Punasangchu, caused cost escalations and large hydro-related external debt, even if concessional. Policymakers flag exposure to hydrology, construction risks, energy prices.
Any other risks?
The evolution of the tariff and financing mix. Over time, India's grant share has fallen, debt share risen. Mangdechu was 70-30 debt grant versus earlier 60-40 grant loan projects like Chuka. While still paired with India's market guarantee, Bhutan now bears more fiscal burden for new projects.
Compared to Bhutan, Nepal has even greater theoretical hydro potential, around 83,000 milliW, 42,000 milliW viable. Yet, results have been thin. Why the stark contrast?
The contrast is indeed striking. Our sources make it clear. Nepal's underperformance is due to policy and politics, not geology. Abundant water, but hampered ability to harness it.
But are things changing at all? Any recent positives?
Yes, it's important to acknowledge some recent positive developments, a potential shift. In January 2024, India and Nepal signed a game-changing 25-year power trade agreement. India committed to importing 10,000 milliW over 10 years.
Bhutan-style assurance.
Exactly the kind needed to attract investment. Also, June 2025, Nepal made its first ever export to Bangladesh 40 mW via India's grid, a vital template for trilateral trade.
What about infrastructure?
Significant transmission build-out. Talkabar-Muzaffarpur 400 kV line is live, being upgraded. New Butwal-Gorakhpur 400 kV under implementation. 2 new 400 kV lines agreed in 2025 in Arua-Purnia and Dadar-Harlem-Kibarali, crucial arteries.
And investment.
Indian investments are increasing. R3, 900 mW, late-stage construction, Lower Arun 669 mW, moving forward. West Seti 6, 1200 mW, handed to India's NHPC in 2022. These, plus Nepali independent producers, could finally scale exports.
That does sound like a lot of positive movement, a potential turning point. So why does Nepal still underperform its potential compared to Bhutan? What are the underlying historical hurdles?
Despite recent momentum, significant hurdles remain. Primary reason: stop-go politics and policy inconsistency. Look at Pancheshwar from the Mahakali Treaty, still stuck after 3 decades over project reports, benefit-sharing disputes.
Other examples.
Booty Gandaki projects swung between different sponsors, face cancellations with government changes. This churn makes financiers incredibly skittish, timelines elastic, discourages large-scale long-term investment.
And politics.
Secondly, hydropower is often a political football. Major parties play to nationalist sentiment, especially during spats with India. Makes finalizing bankable cross-border deals risky. Anti-India narratives become campaign tools, undermining trust.
Any other fact?
Lastly, regulatory and geopolitical misalignment. India's cross-border trade rules, while enabling access, also impose guardrails on projects with sensitive ownership, or seen as not strategically aligned. Developers failing to align early face late-stage shocks, finding their power, can't reach India's market.
So it sounds like Nepal's challenges aren't lack of resources or even India's unwillingness, but more internal factors. What can Nepal concretely learn from Bhutan's playbook?
The lessons are quite concrete. First, lock in the market first. Convert the 2024 trade deal into project-specific power purchase agreements 5, 10, 25 years quickly. Provide bankability.
Okay, what else?
Second, depoliticize the pipeline. Create cross-party, do not politicize compacts for strategic river projects, Koshi, Gandaki, Karnali. Ensure continuity across governments, binding dispute resolution timelines. Key difference from Bhutan, where hydro stayed above daily politics.
Infrastructure.
Third, finish the arteries. Prioritize 400 kV transmission lines on a war footing. No lines, no exports. Simple as that. Fourth, align with India's cross-border trade, CBTE, rules early. If India is the buyer-facilitator, ownership and contracts must be compliant from day one. Avoid costly late surprises.
And project types.
Finally, sequence storage with run-of-river projects. Bhutan, with India's grid, achieves better seasonal balancing. Nepal needs storage like West Seti SR6 to turn monsoon surpluses into firm winter supply, commanding premium tariffs, reducing waste.
The verdict seems pretty clear. Bhutan built a generally fair, mutually beneficial partnership delivering real gains. Nepal's immense potential is largely hampered by its own internal, political, and policy challenges, often fueled by the very nationalism meant to protect its interests.
That captures it well.
We've explored India's significant role in Nepal treaties, hydro, borders, but there's another more shadowy aspect: intelligence operations. Let's delve into India's Research and Analysis Wing, or RAW, and its strategic interests in Nepal.
Right. India's Research and Analysis Wing, RAW, India's external intelligence agency, it's long maintained a strong, consistent interest in Nepal. Operations are secret, of course, but widely believed to focus less on Nepal's complex domestic politics.
And more on
monitoring external threats. Specifically, RAW's main concerns are external actors, particularly Pakistan and China, using Nepali territory for their own strategic aims.
Why Nepal specifically?
Its unique geopolitical position, a buffer state between India and China, sharing that long, open, porous 1,751-kilometer border with India, makes it a vital arena for intelligence activity, both opportunities and vulnerabilities for regional powers.
So given these strategic concerns, what are RAW's primary objectives in Nepal?
Historically, a primary focus was countering Pakistan's ISI. In the 90s, early 2000s, ISI allegedly used Nepal as a staging ground terrorism, smuggling counterfeit Indian currency.
Any specific incidents linked to that?
The 1999 hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC-814 is often cited. Indian investigators connected it to ISI-backed groups allegedly operating from Nepali soil.
And more recent?
In recent years, especially with Nepal's deepening involvement in China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, RAW has significantly shifted attention to monitoring Chinese intelligence activities. The concern in New Delhi is Nepal potentially becoming an intelligence and infrastructure outpost for Beijing.
Which would impact India how?
directly compromise India's northern flank and security interests along the Himalayan border.
Do we have any sense of the scale of Raw's operations? Or is that tightly under wraps?
As you'd expect, the precise scale is unknown, highly classified. But estimates from various reports suggest a significant presence. Hundreds, possibly thousands of operatives.
How do they operate?
Not always covert. Can include overt officials at the Indian embassy, consulates, alongside covert operatives believed embedded within Nepali institutions, maybe under diplomatic cover, or as business people. Reports suggest agents monitor key sites, Kathmandu's airport, border checkpoints.
This definitely reveals a fascinating and delicate balancing act for Nepal, caught between these two giants.
Indeed it does. Incredibly complex for Kathmandu. For example, in 2023, Nepal reportedly shared details on 17 identified raw operatives with China under a bilateral security info exchange.
Signaling what?
Signaling Kathmandu's deliberate effort to balance relationships, navigate these powerful forces, assert its independent foreign policy. From India's perspective, Nepal is both a strategic opportunity and a significant security vulnerability: terrorism, extremism exploiting the porous border. This web of intelligence underscores the constant balancing act Nepal performs.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the broken promises of Mahakali and the intricacies of border disputes, to the profound impact of the Royal Palace Massacre and the contrasting paths of hydropower in the Himalayas, it's truly a tapestry woven with historical grievances, strategic imperatives, and that constant push and pull of national identity.
What we've seen is that Nepal's story isn't just about what happened, but crucially, about the persistent narratives, both the factual accounts and the widespread speculative ones that continue to shape this present and future.
Right.
Each of these events, whether it's a stalled dam symbolizing unfulfilled potential or a tragic royal killing shrouded in conspiracy, underscores the delicate balance Nepal constantly navigates. Caught between internal political volatility, which derails projects, and the powerful gravitational forces of its larger neighbors.
For you, our listener, the key takeaway here is just how deeply interconnected these issues are. You can't really isolate them, can you?
Not at all.
The river defining a border is also the source of an unbuilt dam. Its failure tied to political instability. That instability fuels nationalist sentiments impacting diplomatic relations. It's a complex web, but hopefully you now have the tools and the clear facts to begin to untangle it.
Indeed. Understanding these historical deep dives helps us appreciate that a nation's sovereignty isn't just lines on a map or words in a treaty. It's a living, breathing negotiation, constantly influenced by past events, present geopolitics, and its people's future aspirations. A continuous process of self-definition.
Here's a provocative thought to leave you with. If Nepal could truly depoliticize its most critical development projects, like Bhutan largely managed with hydropower, how might its destiny diverge from its current path? Could focusing on pragmatic, long-term cooperation rather than short-term political gains or nationalist rhetoric unlock the true potential of this incredibly resource-rich nation and secure a more stable, prosperous future? What do you think?